So we've done a lot of these videos so far on some of these legendary lords that are not slated to come out, but some that we want to see come out, or some that we are really excited about, or just, some pure speculative things about some of these legendary lords. But today I want to go into, like I had promised in my last video, Ungrim Ironfist. And this will be one of our first lords that is already out, but a lot of you guys have asked, hey, what's a little bit more lore about Ungrim? Who is he? What's his perfect Sunday? Stuff like that. So what we're going to do in typical fashion, I'm going to read the little lore blurb from the 8th edition book on Ungrim Ironfist. Then we're going to go through his magic items, as well as his rules, and how they already correlate to what we see in Total War Warhammer. We'll be using the Mortal Empires Mortal Empires Ungrim Ironfist version from Total War Warhammer 2. So that'll kind of be our, guinea pig or comparison model for this, the 8th edition tabletop book, as well as the in-game model, or in-game Ungrim, so we can have, compare and contrast. How do they actually work translating from the tabletop into the actual Total War game? We'll also talk a little bit about the end times, as well as Ungrim's ill-fated son, Garagrim Ironfist. So let's just kind of jump on in here to the lore blurb first. So Ungrim Ironfist, last Slayer King of Carach-Cadron. There are few kinds of monsters that walk the world that Ungrim Ironfist is not slain in battle. Armed with the enormous axe of Drago, Ungrim deals death, carving a path of red ruin before him while singing songs of old in a booming voice. Atop his head is a bright orange crest that rises above a sturdy horned helmet set with a golden crown. For Ungrim is both a slayer and a king, more than likely the last of the line of Slayer Kings of Carach-Cadron. The tale of Ungrim's family, the Drakebeard clan, is full of woe, as these in the clan of royal blood bear a history of calamities. Many years ago, King Baragor, Ungrim's 5 times great grandsire, suffered a terrible loss which drove him to take the oath of the Slayers. What caused such a drastic decision is not recorded. It is commonly assumed that the cause was the death of his daughter at the claws of the dragon Skaladrak, while on her way to marry the son of the High King of Carach-Akarak. In any case, Baragor became the first Slayer King of Carach-Cadron. He was torn between conflicting vows, the Slayer Oath to seek out death, and the oath of a king to protect his people. In the end, good dwarf sense prevailed, and he found a way to honor all commitments. He founded this famed Slayer Shrine of Carach-Cadron, the largest shrine to Grimnir. Thus he established a haven for slayers that continues to this day. His son inherited his vows, and he continued the line of Slayer Kings, of which King Ungrim Ironfist is but the latest. Although Ungrim cannot seek his death in Slayer fashion, he grows ever more restless, leading the throng of Carach-Cadron into countless battles. Inspired by his High King and seeking to avenge his lone son who was slain, Ungrim will march to war with the least provocation. It was Ungrim who slew the Dragon of Black Peak, and who broke Queek Headtaker's siege of King Belagar's citadel in Carach 8 Peaks. The Slayer King has beaten Ogre Mercenary Goldfag Maneater and held off a Chaos Army in the Battle of High Pass. Most dwarfs are amazed Ungrim has lived so long, and none think that a mighty death in battle can be very far away. So as you would expect, a very badass, very awesome dwarf lord here, and even in the tabletop, the Slayers are some of the most iconic units in the dwarf roster, let alone just the Warhammer Fantasy image as a whole. I know one of the very first things I bought was a white dwarf with, I think it was a whole little pack of, a pack of Slayers. It was drawn, not like the actual models, jumping onto some unsuspecting orcs. And it's a very, very iconic picture. And it only kind of fits that Ungrim Ironfist in and of himself is just a total badass. Before we jump into the actual rules and everything here, we did that little end times video on the dwarfs and kind of what happened to them. But we know that Ungrim Ironfist was taken over by Aishik, I believe it is, the Wind of Fire. He becomes the avatar of fire, the incarnate of fire in the Warhammer universe. And we see him actually kind of sacrificing himself and turning himself into a gigantic nuclear bomb and essentially killing everything in, I don't want to say Altdorf, but that's not right. Averheim, I believe it is. And what actually happens is you have the end of this great Ungrim Ironfist, but he's always kind of been on this Slayer oath, right? And starting with his son, Garagrim Ironfist is a really good example here. So Garagrim Ironfist this is back in the storm during the Storm of Chaos campaign that we've talked about, has unfortunately been retconned. But Ungrim Ironfist takes the Slayer's Oath, just like his father has, and he's resolved, hey, I'm going to release the family from this. I'm gonna get them out of this oath. So he goes to Kislev to help out with the demon invasion, and what happens is a giant dies, and it falls onto Garagrim, and him dying in battle in an honorable death thus absolves the entire clan, including Ungrim, of their Slayer Oath. They've died honorably in battle. There's no longer does that need to pass down from father to son to father, whatever the hell it is. It's done and over with. But Ungrim just gets so despondent and is so depressed about the situation that he's like, no, I'm gonna take the oath again. So he freaks out and becomes a Slayer King again because he's just so depressed about it. That is retcon in the 8th edition. The 8th edition just simply says, oh, his son's dead. We don't know how. Bibbidi bobbidi. So kind of got that going on. And they mentioned a little bit about Golgfag here, but he actually plays a pretty huge role in Ungrim's history. We talked about that during our Darklands video, but Ungrim and Golgfag have a lot of, I guess, back and forth fighting. I think in the actual point, there's one point in the lore where Golgfag is actually just sitting in a jail cell in Karak-Kadrin. So it would make a lot of sense when the Darklands do come out if we had Golgfag around Karak-Kadrin, or at least around somewhere in that portion of the World's Edge Mountains, because these two have such a lasting feud with each other. Well, let's talk now a little bit about those really cool rules. So, again, this character is already in the game, and a lot of what we see in the game has direct translation from what was in the tabletop. So, for instance, he has 2 Slayer abilities. Demon Slayer or Dragon Slayer. In the tabletop you can choose which Slayer they are, and they're locked into that kind of thing. So what we see in the tabletop, Demon and Dragon Slayer and further their individual bonuses as per the actual thing that they're slaying. Are they a Demon Slayer, what have you. And that helps increase that effectiveness to that monster. So when we take a look at Total War Warhammer, we're looking at Demon Slayer and Dragon Slayer. So Demon Slayer, it gives +5 melee attack at the toppest or the highest tier when fighting against Chaos and Norska, and the Dragon Slayer gives +5 bonus versus large. So we already see that immediate translation over. He even has the Slayer rule that he has is translated into the Total War game universe with a melee attack bonus of +12. And he has some other rules too that make another direct translation. And it's really cool to see these kind of side by side, right? So if we look at the Slayer King means that he is basically the general of the army. That is not the case for other Slayers in the tabletop. But the Slayer King for the Total War franchise means that you get +10 attack for Slayer units at the top tier, level 3. The King of Slayers is an awe-inspiring sight to every dwarf, but especially those that have taken the Slayer Oath. So they do a really good job of taking what is purely a Warhammer tabletop mechanic. He can be the general, and additionally, Ungrim is chosen as a general. A single Slayer unit may take a runic standard worth up to 100 points. Good luck translating that into Total War, and they've done a really good job doing that with the Slayer King bonus of giving some sort of boon to Slayers in and of themselves. So he does have some magic items that, again, have direct translations as well. So let's talk about those. So the Axe of Drago, let's read the lore blurb, and we'll compare it even to the lore blurb that's in Total War. Now, I promise it'll probably be just around the damn same. The Axe of Drago. So the Axe of Drago, a runic weapon of monstrous size, was made of the shards of King Baragor's broken axe, tempered with dragon's blood and iron oaths of vengeance. And we take a look at the Total War lore blurb, it's the exact same sentence. So in the tabletop, you get +2 strength and killing blow. Clearly, we don't kind of have that direct translation. We have thought of strength as weapon strength in the Total War universe, so let's take a look at what it actually is. So it gives us a bonus versus large +6, melee attack +6. All attacks are now magic because of the Axe of Drago. Upkeep -5% for all units. Recruitment cost -10%, and income from post-battle +10%. And the actual weapon itself has got a toggleable effect, and it's +40% AP and +32 bonus versus large. So obviously, there's no bonus versus large or bonus versus infantry in the tabletop, so they had to kind of make that translation. It makes a lot of sense here that the Axe of Drago would be something that would be used to kind of hewn off the head of a giant dragon of the swords. You know, him being a Slayer King and all, raining in blood. But let's take a look at another one here, the Dragon Cloak of Firescar. Gifted to Ungrim by Thorgrim Grudgebearer after the Battle of Broken Leg Gully, this cloak is made from the skin of the fierce dragon Firescar, offspring of the mighty Skaladrak. It is now an heirloom of Caracadron and a symbol of vows already fulfilled. So in the tabletop, we see this thing giving a 4-up ward save to Ungrim. It also improves to a 2-up ward save if it's against flaming attacks. But let us see how this translation makes it to Total War. And actually, the little lore blurb is a little bit, it's shortened from the one in the book, because the one in the book's, I think, 2 sentences. There's a 1-sentence limit, clearly, in Total War. But in Total War, it's a 5-up melee, it's a +5 melee defense, a 20% resistance to fire, and a 20% ward save, which is pretty awesome. Enemy hero action success, -10%, and wound recovery time, -1. So it does have a very good translation here. I really like that bonus of ward as well as fire resistance, because the wards are so different from tabletop to Total War, but I really enjoy the way that Total War has taken the ward save and made it not too game breaking and added it into alongside the normal defense that a character would have. Let's look at our last item here, the Slayer Crown. This majestic helmet, let's start that over. This majestic helmet has been worn by every Slayer King since the time of King Baragor. And what this does in tabletop is it adds 1 to Ungrim's armor save as well as 1 to his toughness. Armor save you could kind of think of as melee, or as the actual statistic armor, and melee defense you could correlate to the toughness statistic in the tabletop. So let's see how that translates as well. So it gives a +5 public order, gives 8 armor, 10 melee defense, so you see that direct correlation there with the toughness, and you see that direct correlation with the armor save bonus right there. It also gives him a +3 melee attack, and then a ward save of 10%. Of course, that would stack with his Dragon Cloak of Firescar, giving him a total of 30% ward save, which is pretty damn awesome. Also, he gives unit experience +1 for Slayer unit recruits, and chance of intercepting an army using the Underway, Beast Pass, or World Roots +10%, and lastly, Untainted +5. So you can really get an idea here for how they've made this translation of the Slayer King from a tabletop mechanic where he is very centered on killing large beasts, large animals, large monsters, dragons and demons of the sort. But also he's a little bit of a sniper, he's a bit of an assassin. He has to be placed with Slayers in the tabletop. Obviously that's not a situation here, but he also has his death, for instance, he even has his death blow capability, which is gives him in Total War +15% AP and +15% weapon damage. So you see Ungrim Ironfist as this very true to the tabletop roots, and this is just to give you guys an idea of how some of the lords have translated from the book to Total War. And you know, that's one of those things where, oh, I don't like that movie, I fucking, the book's better. Well, of course the goddamn book's better. But this gives us a really good idea of how Total War goes about looking at certain mechanics and how to translate them into Total War. And that'll give us a lot of insight on how we can help translate what we see in a lot of the hopefully upcoming lords of Total War Warhammer 3 and the Chaos Dwarfs and the Ogre Kingdoms and Kislev, and how they might be incorporated into Total War. We can kind of, I guess, get a more accurate speculation rather than just kind of a blanket, well, he's got ice magic, so it means he's going to be throwing glacial shards everywhere. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video here. If you want to see more videos on lords that are already out in the game and we know everything about, let me know. I'd love to kind of talk side by side about what happened in tabletop and what happened in Total War and how these kind of correlate together. I had a lot of fun doing this because it's kind of fun for me, even personally, to see that direct correlation of, oh, Slayer King is an actual rule for him. So is Slayer, so is Demon Slayer, so is Dragon Slayer. He's Rune of Grimnir's there on him. Like, all these things play so heavily into Ungrim Ironfist's actual background that it's great to see them actually put into the game. It's just a little, if anything, it's a slight nod to the people that know about the book. But if you didn't know anything about the book, you're not in the lurch here. You definitely still know what all these abilities do. So this is kind of a great justice, a great nod, as it were. But thanks for watching so much here today, guys. Got plenty of goodies coming out here for you this week. I'm going to be starting to do some stuff on some Warhammer 40,000. Kind of take some break from Warhammer Fantasy for a little bit and kind of hopefully switch off. We have our streams coming up throughout the week as well. And hopefully we'll have plenty of other quick battles and even maybe our co-op campaign with Turin coming out as well. But thanks for watching here today, guys. Don't forget to like and comment below. Go ahead and follow me on the old Twitter sphere, or whatever the hell it's called. It's a link. There's a link somewhere in my channel. I can't believe I just said twatter. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one and take care.